Hello, I'm Steve Osborne. I'm the County Agent for Agricultural and Natural Resources here in Allen County, Kentucky, and today we're right outside of Scottsville at the Harper Cattle Company. And the Harper Cattle Company is a father-son feeder operation, and on my left here is Brett Harper, and on my right is Bill Harper.
Well, I originally purchased this farm about 27 or 28 years ago. It was originally a 50-acre tract, and over the years we just picked off acreage that joined us. Now we're close to 300 acres altogether. Originally we're a cow-calf operation, and then we gradually shifted over to feeders, and that's kind of how we got started, and tried to stay ahead of the game a little bit as you have to get larger as time went by, and now we're up to probably a total of cattle per year that we run through and process between 1,800 and 2,000 a year. We background only heifers. We'll buy usually around 460 pounds, feed them close to 90 to 100 days. Hopefully they weigh 700, and then that's when we ship them west. There's two of us, and it's my son and myself. We do everything. We each have our own jobs that we do. I do a lot of the buying. Brett does a lot of the commodity aspects of it. He handles all the selling part of it. Health aspect, I watch cattle on a day-to-day basis. I like to tell people it's a hobby that kind of snowballed. We started out hand feeding these calves, and we saw there was a pretty good market for calves straightened out like that. Decided we was going to do a few more till one winter we hand fed right at 300 head through the winter with 5-gallon buckets. We decided we was going to keep doing this. We need to get a little bit bigger. Went in and we got our first TMR mixer, concrete feed bunks, and set up a couple feed lots. Realized that once we got started, it was about just as easy to feed 600 to 700 calves as it was to feed 300 calves, and just another load of feed basically. Here recently we've expanded even more. I rented another farm down the road and going to expand our cow-calf operation more to hopefully where we're feeding a lot more of our own calves. Well, we usually try to buy our cattle starting right about in October and November. It seems like we do a better job health-wise, and we can produce a better calf through the cooler months because you don't have fly problems, you don't have a lot of problems that you have in the heat. As far as when we get them ready to go, you know, we've got loads that are going to go out in January, they'll go out February, March, all the way up probably through April. We'll regroup for the summer months, and a lot of times through the summer months we may not run as many. Black Angus calves will be the biggest portion that we keep, mainly because the demand is good for black hides. We'll have some cross calves that are black nose Charolais do awfully well, black baldies, reds. Mainly ours will be Black Angus calves, you know, that we get ready for the month. Typically what we do when we go to start putting cattle in, we do most of the buying. A couple other guys that we trust to buy cattle for us. We kind of like to keep it to ourselves and do everything we can ourselves. In a week's time, we'll gather up anywhere up to 150 calves in a week's time. Usually 100 calves, 75 to 100 calves in a week, just to not overcrowd things. We got pens outside here where we keep them separated, where we know which calves come from which barn. We like to rest them. Like these cattle here came in Tuesday. We'll typically rest them for 4 or 5 days. Let them get their legs back under them, eat some feed, get water, settle down, and then Saturday morning is usually when we'll process them through the chute. We'll tag, tip the horns if there are any horns. Usually a shove exceed, deworm with a drench wormer and a pour on. Summertime we do a pink eye and a fly tag. Regardless of what it is, we always PI check for persistently infected. That's the one thing I tell people, if there was one thing we could do when we run these cattle through this chute, that's what it'd be, is a PI check. It's a pretty big problem. There's only one way to eliminate it, and that's check every single calf. We got burned really bad on one PI calf. From now on, every head that sets foot out here is checked. It's kind of mixed. Usually people around here, everybody knows that we do it, and we'll mention that when we sell. Sometimes people are willing to pay a little more for it, but even if they don't, it still pays us to check PI calves and get them out on the performance of the other calves. It'll really bring the rest of the cattle down, and it saves us on our health, and it just makes our health so much better. Even if we don't get paid anymore for doing it, it's still definitely worth doing it. A lot of times when we got a few extra cattle for a load, we'll peel off some of the better good black heifers. People will come and they know what we only deal with heifers, and we've sold a few
replacement heifers off, which is another reason, good reason to deal with heifers, is why we stayed in with those. You got more avenues besides going straight to a feed yard with them. You can keep them longer if you have to and sell replacements. You can turn them out and breed them if you absolutely have to. We've got more on to going ahead and contracting our cattle and selling them, taking the risk out right up front. But we've always usually sell a few replacements. When we first started this, we just bought a few, and Dad, he had another job, and I had another job. It just kind of worked out. Well, that's when we had time to work the cattle, was on Saturday morning. That's why we started out doing it that way. We found out that resting those cattle, it works good. Most people will tell you to work them the next morning right after you bring them in. And now that we've got more into it full time, we're sticking with it because it worked. We don't mind to change something or try something new, but somebody's going to be hard pressed to tell me to change with the luck that we're having with the way we do it now, and it's the way we've always done it. You got to change, but it's really hard to go away from what we're doing, having the success we're having. We don't doctor a lot of cattle, and we don't lose a lot of cattle. Especially when I start them out, I don't like to pile it up in there a whole bunch. Yeah, that middle pin there, see that bunk's a little wet right there on that pin number 2. They've been over there licking on it, see? That pin number 3, see, it's just got a little, it's about right. This pin here, they wanting some more, which that's good. Our pins are mainly set up for 150 calves. They'll stay right here. We absolutely keep them until we get our PI result back. And what we'll do, that whole bunch, they'll go to that last pen first of the week. They'll go to that last pen, and then we'll turn them out in that dry triangle lot out there. This right here is off of a factory that processes corn for corn syrup and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff, there's a lot of germ and a lot of good stuff in there. That's been tested 28-29% protein right there, for about half the price of corn. This stuff just don't fall in your lap. I look for it. It's kind of inconsistent, and sometimes it'll be a little burnt.